Howdy gamers. Let's talk about the runes for Singed top lane. He has two like major keystones, and they both really vary in like what you want to accomplish with him. And I think they're both completely fine, especially in a solo queue context. The major keystones being Conqueror and Unsealed Spellbook. So with Conqueror, I think that it gives you more agency and it also gives you more potential to be way stupider. As with Conqueror, it's going to put you in the precision tree, and effectively what you're getting is access to more damage and then more healing. So with Conqueror, you gain stacks every time you damage the enemy with a spell or an attack. Since Singed is melee, every single tick is going to be counting for 2, and then once Conqueror is fully stacked, you heal for 15% of the damage that you deal. With Conqueror, you're also getting access to ability power a lot sooner as you're getting it from the Conqueror, along with your itemization, and then this in combination with something like early swordpin boots makes you so potent, and makes you a lot stronger if you can actually 1v1 your lane or cause a problem in the enemy jungle and then create like a 2v2, a 3v3, 1v3, etc. You can do a lot of really just insane shit with this that you otherwise like wouldn't be able to. Since you're in the Conqueror tree, you gain Triumph, which is going to give you healing on a kill or assist. Tenacity, which is kind of whatever. Tenacity doesn't really change things. And then you get Last Stand, which gives you 5 to 11% increased damage to champions while you're below 60% health. Max damage gained at 30% health. That's really synergistic with how Singed likes to play the fights, as you're skirting around like really low amounts of health while the enemy's chasing you, and then you're dealing more damage, therefore healing more with Conquer, and then healing more with Ravenous Hunter. With the secondary runes, it's Domination with Taste of Blood. You heal whenever you damage an enemy champion. This is on a 20-second cooldown. And then with Ravenous Hunter, you heal for a percentage of damage dealt by your abilities. So my problems with this page is that if you're in a lane, particularly a losing lane, Conqueror loses a lot of value as you can't fight your lane in general. If you're in a losing 2v2 with your jungler in top lane, it also loses value. If you can't create fights, then it loses value. But it does give you more damage overall, and it does give you way more value in a 2v2, 3v3 scenario. And then if you gain a lead through participating in those and then gaining an advantage through the extra AP offered and then the more damage offered, then that's going to help you snowball the game, as you're going to get Bounty Hunter stacks with Ravenous Hunter and then access to more ability power items earlier. So then whenever a 5v5 comes, you're still really strong. So there's more agency in this, and because you're giving yourself more power and more damage. But I don't think it's the best way that you can play Singed, because you already have a lot of damage in his kit, and then the 3 other abilities outside of his Q is really for utility. You have a slow in your W, you have a CC ability in the E, and then you have this like regen ability in the R. And you can use those in different ways. With Ravenous Hunter, a problem I have with it too is if you're playing in the top lane, it's harder to stack this up compared to other roles. With Ravenous Hunter, it's based off Bounty Hunter stacks, and with Bounty Hunter stacks, you earn them for each unique takedown on an enemy champion. So you could be solo kill in your lane, and you can get plus 2.5% damage or healing from the damage on your abilities. But you need to get more than that for Ravenous Hunter to really start being meaningful, and the healing from it to be meaningful. And to get kills and assist on the enemy jungler, mid laner, AD, and support isn't going to be a consistent thing that you can really do with Singed, especially in solo queue. So this rune in top lane is really hard to make use out of. And then the healing from Taste of Blood is kind of whatever. You could also run Inspiration second with this, giving you better laning with Biscuits and Time Warp Tonic. Especially in harder lanes, the immediate healing from Time Warp Tonic in combination with Biscuits is going to make it so that you can survive at different times and then take fights that you otherwise wouldn't be able to, because you play with more effective HP immediately because of Time Warp Tonic. But to use Conqueror as a laning tool as well, if you're not playing into an AP matchup, or if you're not playing into a melee matchup, it becomes almost impossible to use Conqueror. And if you're playing into a ranged matchup, I think you're better off having utility from something like Summoner Spellbook. And if you're playing into a tank matchup, I suppose it's all fine there. But if you're playing into like a losing Bruiser matchup, I think you're better off going something like Unsealed Spellbook as well. So This page, again, going to give you a lot more agency, a lot more like solo potential. If you're playing single player, this is hands down like the best page for Singed, because you give the champion the most that it can get. You get the most damage that you can get from runes from Conqueror plus Last Stand. You get the most utility you can get from Legend Tenacity, the most personal utility you can get from Legend Tenacity, the healing from Triumph, the healing from Taste of Blood, and the healing from Ravenous Hunter. So with that, I don't think those are bad runes on Singed, but I do think that the utility is outweighed by what you can get with Unsealed Spellbook. With Unsealed Spellbook, you can swap one of your summoner spells for a new one. You get your first swap at 6 minutes, and then the cooldown of the summoner spell swap is lowered every time you swap a summoner spell. So initially it's 4 minutes, and then again you can swap your first one at 6 minutes. In a losing lane or in a ranged matchup, Summoner Spellbook's gonna be inevitably better than Conqueror would be, as at 6 minutes, if you've endured up until 6 minutes, then you get access to an Ignite, and then you're level 6 around that exact time. And then that's when you can really look to solo kill your lane versus fighting them at all stages with the Conqueror. Because in the early game, Conqueror isn't even that good of a laning tool. It has to be scaled up, and then kind of the same with Last Stand. So with Unsealed Spellbook, you're going to get access to multiple summoner spells, and that becomes really, 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 really useful. Like, even just entering the mid game, it's not even really about the late game. You can, because Singed can use every summoner spell so well, it becomes really, really like brutal for the enemy to have to deal with, especially if you're participating in, like, again, the 2v2s and the 3v3s, and then even the 5v5s, because whenever you're using extra summoner spells, you're helping your team inevitably more. And through having the utility, if you start looking at Singed as, like, instead of just this carry champion that you could play with Conqueror, if you start looking at him like this utility tank champion that also deals a shit ton of damage, then something like Summoner Spellbook gains a lot more functionality when you're working with your team, whether it be your jungler, your mid laner, or your entire team with the bot lane come mid game. So with Unsealed Spellbook, again, you're going to get access to every single summoner spell, which Singed can make great use of. In the early game, your most useful ones are going to be Ignite, Heal, Exhaust. All of those will give you solo kill potential on your lane, if not just a better lane state. And then in the mid game, whenever you're fighting for Dragon Soul or Rift Herald, Exhaust, Barrier, Ghost, all of those are going to become way more prevalent. And then in the super late game, if you have an Ignite and Exhaust, you're just winning. You have so much more damage, and then you're negating so much damage from the enemy champions. And it's going to give so much utility to your team just with the one Exhaust cast. Your AD carry can survive because of it. You can finish off a target with healing without having to build a Morello's because you can run Ignite. There's so much versatility in it, and it's so valuable. So for the secondary runes, all of these are good for Singed. Perfect Timing works well. Magical Footwear is okay. And then Hextech Flash is also okay because you can Hextech Flash out of bushes. You can Hextech Flash over walls. The utility in it becomes actually not bad, as missing out on boots early feels pretty bad for Singed, and you're really not trying to hit an item breakpoint with his build that early. So I think Hextech Flash is going to be your best bet. It's going to give you, again, just more utility, and then this potential like cheese tool effectively, as most people won't expect it. For the third rune, you again have really good options in either Futures Market, Minion Dematerializer, or Biscuits. With Minion Dematerializer, it's not really needed, as you're going to be killing the wave about at the same time that you would be anyways. The benefit of Futures Market is so that you can complete a lot of the early game items a lot faster, and then be able to kind of circumvent the losses that you're taking early through having losing lanes in which Unsealed Spellbook's inevitably better. But I think the easiest one for you to use would be Biscuits, as Biscuits, you get a biscuit every 2 minutes until 6. The biscuits restore 10% of your missing health and mana, and then consuming it or selling a biscuit permanently increases your mana by 50. So that's just generally useful for Singed, and then in combination with Time Warp Tonic, gives you a lot of utility. Again, with Time Warp Tonic, it gives you that immediate health, consuming a potion or biscuit grants you 50% of its health or mana regeneration immediately, and then puts them on a short cooldown. And then while you're under their effects, you also gain 5% movement speed. So this, in combination with Corrupting Potion, makes it so that you can just have a lot safer of a laning phase in like an aggressive way. So like you can go for trades and then immediately use the Corrupting Potion and the biscuit, and then just be at higher amounts of health so the enemy doesn't have a lethal on you. And then with Unsealed Spellbook, the best secondary runes is always going to be Nimbus Cloak and then Celerity. With Nimbus Cloak, you gain this extra functionality out of Unsealed Spellbook. With Nimbus Cloak, after you cast a summoner spell, you gain a movement speed increase that lasts for 2.5 seconds and allows you to pass through units. And then the movement speed increase is based on the cooldown of the summoner spell. So every time you would be casting, again, the Barrier, the Ignite, the Ghost, the Cleanse, the fucking Heal, any of the summoner spells that you get from Unsealed Spellbook, you're going to get this extra movement speed. Anytime you use your teleport into a fight, you're going to have the extra movement speed to actually get into position to actually get onto a champion, which is entirely what Singed needs to do. With Celerity, you increase that bonus. You also increase the movement speed bonus from your ult and then from your passive. So, and that's like you gain so much functionality through the extra utility offered from all of these runes that I think that even though you're missing out on damage and healing from Ravenous Hunter, Conqueror, and Last Stand from the Conqueror page, I think that the functionality that you gain from the utility offered from these runes just makes Singed a better champion than Conqueror does, even though Conqueror is good on Singed. There is just champions that use Conqueror better than him and could dish out more damage. Like you could play Cassiopeia top and be carrying a lot harder than a Singed could. You can't be carrying in the same ways, but Singed can do things with Unsealed Spellbook that a champion like Cassiopeia couldn't, because he gets so much inherent takiness and so much damage just from his items and then from his abilities and the levels. So I do think that this page is better on Singed because of that. And Christ, I hope I explained it. I articulated the best I could, man. I'm a gamer. I don't know how to say words. So that's my thoughts on Singed runes. I think you should be looking to carry through utility versus damage, but I don't think the Conqueror page is bad. I think that in solo queue, it's a lot easier to use the Conqueror page, and especially if there's just no mind to it, it's probably going to work out better. But if you have some thought behind it, and if you're playing a more utility style, then Unsealed Spellbook plus Nimbus Cloak is just like actually broken on Singed. It's really ridiculous. Try it out, man. Alrighty. If this video helped you, leave a like on the video. It helps me. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'd appreciate it if you subscribed, you know? Twitch is in the description. Check it out. I talk about League of Legends. Go figure, man. I talk about League of Legends. I might play it sometimes too.